Welcome back, everyone, to our third week in the consumer market research class. This week we're going to talk about what I think is the most interesting part of market research, and that's doing focus groups, where you get a group of people together to discuss your particular situation. And we'll get into that in a minute. I want to talk about the projects because I know I'm causing some of you a lot of stress. For this class, we've got essentially two projects that are part of your grade. The first one is going to focus on qualitative research. You can do focus groups or one-on-one interviews that we're going to talk about next week. And ultimately, for part one, I'm asking you to put together a discussion guide for a hypothetical focus group. And then part two, if you prefer more qualitative research, then I'm asking you to go out and talk to 5 people. Either do a focus group of 5, friends, relatives, family, or 5 individual people, and put together a brief report of what you heard. Or if you're more of a quantitative ilk, then forget the qualitative and write a questionnaire. All I want from you now, and it's not even gradable, so don't stress about it, just send me an email saying, you know, this is what I'm thinking of doing for my project. A couple sentences. I just want to make sure that it is the proper realm for a qualitative project, and give you any feedback that I can, if I can help in any way. Okay, so send me an email. Don't stress it. If you didn't get it to me by now, that's okay. All right, let's talk about focus groups. Okay. Focus groups are, in essence, when you want to understand why. It's the why behind the buy, as a client used to say, or how people, I don't know, interact with your product, or how they shop, or how they go about, investigating, how they get their information. Do they rely on social media, and then what does social media mean to them, and things like that. It's all about the hows and the whys, and it's a forum of about 8 people, and it's a discussion, and people can play off of each other. And there are drawbacks, which I'll talk about in a minute. People often follow the leader, and we'll talk about how to get around some of those obstacles. Okay, there's kind of 2 kinds of focus groups to draw an artificial distinction. One is when they're more exploratory, where you really don't know what it is you want to learn, but you want to learn about how people think about, let's say you have a product. Let's say it's a skincare product, and I'm about to launch a skincare product, let's say, and I want to understand how people feel about their skin, and how they feel about do they have a regimen of taking care of themselves? Where do they shop, and what does it mean to them to shop where they do for skincare products? Do they feel that if they go to a pharmacy, if they go to a Walgreens or CVS, it's going to be of a lesser quality than if they buy it at Macy's or Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom's? So it's going much deeper than you would be able to do in a quantitative survey. Now, quantitative surveys can answer a lot of questions, but you can only go so deep. For instance, let's take a customer satisfaction survey. Okay, I might say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your experience at my hotel on the following? I was greeted in a friendly manner by the staff. The food was good. The housekeeping staff was good. And that will give me a lot of detailed information. But I still don't know why. What do they mean that the staff was unfriendly? What specifically are they looking for in terms of, outstanding service? That's when a focus group comes in handy, because I can go really deeper. And a focus group is moderated by a moderator, a focus group moderator, who leads the discussion and has a discussion guide that's been worked out with the client. And her job is to keep the conversation on track. Her job is to probe, to go deeper. What do you mean by that? Why do you say what you do? And also to control the room to a certain extent. We'll talk about this in a few minutes more. But there's a phenomenon with focus groups. Like any group of people, somebody tends to take the lead. Oftentimes people will follow the leader's lead, and it's up to the moderator to get everybody's thoughts, to include everybody, and to control that kind of behavior. There are cultural, the book mentions it too, cultural things to be aware of. Asian culture in particular. We find it a lot with people from certain parts of Latin America where there's a tendency to say what you think would be polite or what people want to hear. In other words, there's a tendency to say you like a product and to be a little reluctant to criticize a product. So again, a good moderator is able to get people to say how they really feel. Okay, so I'm all over the place today. Exploratory is when you're just kind of finding out. You want to you want to go deeper, but you're just getting a feel for what some of your issues might be. It might also be very tactical. A couple of days ago, I did some focus groups where they were talking about advertising concepts. We presented them with about 8 advertising concepts, and it was very, very specific. What do you think of this concept? What do you think of that concept? Now, that type of research could also be done quantitatively. You can show a stimulus, you can show an ad when you're doing quantitative research. And you can get people to rate it. You can get people to rate it on different things like, reflects the brand and convinces me that this is a good product. But again, you get your numerical results and you still might puzzle as to why. And that's when you do a focus group. So the logistics of doing focus groups is the following. First thing is and the book does a good job of talking about this, you want to be very clear on what it is you want to understand. Get your objectives in line, okay? And then you start with a screener. Part of getting your objectives in line is to understand, and this is important, understanding who it is that you want to talk to, okay? Let's go back to my hotel example. Let's say that I want to talk to, I want to get people to stay at my hotel more, business travelers. So I want to talk to business travelers. And maybe I want to talk to business travelers that travel at least once every 2 weeks, hardcore travelers. Okay. Maybe I want to talk to men because I've been having a problem on my customer satisfaction ratings with men. So I want to understand what it is that men are looking for. And let's say I want to talk to young men, let's say between the ages of 25 and 35 or something like that. Okay, and then let's say I want to compare people that are staying in my hotel versus people that stay at a competitor's hotel. What I do next is I write a screener, which is used for recruiting purposes. I'm going to probably hire a recruiting company. That's what my company does, and give them a screener, which is a step-by-step. How old are you? What ethnicity are you? How often do you stay at a hotel? And then if they say, well, I don't stay at hotels, I stay with relatives when I travel, they're disqualified. So the screener gives you the ability to make sure that you're talking to the people that you want to talk to. And you should put a lot of thought into who it is you want to talk to. When you're doing your projects, think about that. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I feel, a homogenous group. Book makes a big deal about the homogeneity of people in a focus group, and it's true. But sometimes you just want to talk to adult men or adult women or something like that. It all depends. But it's important to give that some thought. Okay? So you do your screener, and then you do your recruiting, and you find people. Usually they're in databases of focus group facilities, which is where you do the focus group. There's a two-way mirror. You can see them as an observer. They can't see you. And usually there's a bunch of clients in the back room, eating M&Ms and Chinese food, and sometimes drinking beer, and sometimes getting really loud, sometimes not. And so you want to get these folks to show up at a designated time. They're usually, in fact, almost always paid an incentive or an honorarium, as it's sometimes called. It depends what people get paid. If a lot of times it depends on the type of person. If you're looking to talk to anybody that's between the ages of 18 and 35, maybe you're going to pay them $85 for a 2-hour session. If you want to talk to chief marketing officers of medium-sized companies, you're probably going to have to pay a lot more money. You're going to have to pay several $100 to get those guys to give you 2 hours, and you want to make sure they show up too. You don't want to have you don't want to travel to Memphis to do a focus group and then nobody shows up. Speaking of Memphis, your market is important too. What cities do you want to do your focus groups in? Maybe you just want to do one focus group in one city. Maybe that's all your budget calls for and that's all you need at the moment. Maybe you want to explore market differences. So maybe you do 2 cities or 3 cities. It all depends. It's all a function of your budget. You don't want to do too much. And that happens sometimes. I'll have clients that want to do 30 focus groups, and after the 3rd or 4th group, you're sitting in the back room thinking, okay, I know exactly what they're going to say. I've heard this, maybe they've done too many. The advantage of doing a lot of focus groups in different markets is you can compare the markets, you can compare different types of people who you might have separated by group. I might have a group of men and a group of women in each city, so I can compare men and women. I can compare men in Los Angeles to men in different markets, things like that. Okay, so you do your screener, you recruit your folks, and then you show up for the focus group. Actually, let me go back, because before you do the focus group, you need to do what is known as a discussion guide. Okay, and what I'm asking you to do for the first project is to write a mini discussion guide. And if you opt for the qualitative part of for project 2, for the second project, then maybe a more formal discussion guide. I will post some real discussion guides. I'll kind of take out the client information and I'll post it to the website early this week, so you can see some real discussion guides. Crafting a discussion guide is kind of an art form. It will determine the flow of the group, and you need to think through what your objectives are as you're writing it. The flow is very important, and that's for a few reasons. If you're talking about sensitive topics, which you may not choose to do with a focus group. For instance, if I want to talk to, let's say I want to talk to men who are infected with HIV. I've got a project coming up. I don't know if people are going to honestly share their opinions in a group of 10 people, but that might be next week's discussion. That might be a one-on-one. But my point is, if you're going to talk about something sensitive, you probably don't want to start off the group talking about that. I like to use what I call a funnel approach. I made up the word, but the idea is you start broad and you go narrow. So let's talk about skincare products again. I might want to start my group, so we want to warm people up too, get them comfortable with each other, get them comfortable with the moderator. Maybe talking about their skin in general, talking about what products they might use and things like that. Then I start to narrow. Let's talk specifically about skincare products. Okay, how do you apply them? Where do you buy them? Things like that. Might want to narrow my focus even more after that. I want to talk about specific brands now. Okay, and then maybe ultimately I want to talk about my brand. Okay, now I want to talk about L'Oreal now. Okay, I'm going to show you some concepts. These are not finished concepts, but these are some ideas for some new products that L'Oreal is thinking of launching. What do you think? I don't want to start off my group with that. I want to ease into it. So discussion guide, as you'll see with what I post, is normally divided into sections with very clearly delineated timing allocated. The introduction 5 minutes, part 1 15 minutes, part 2 25 minutes, or something like that. Very important to stay on track. Focus group lasts between an hour and a half and 2 hours. So you need to make sure you cover what you want to cover in the allocated time. Okay, so you get your discussion guide, you've recruited your folks, and then you launch into your actual focus group. Want to talk about a few things. Okay, again, controlling the room is very, very important. A good moderator is a very empathetic, sensitive person that can draw people out, get them to speak about how they really feel. And he or she is also somebody that's very buttoned up, that can stick to that discussion guide, okay, and get through the entire discussion and make sure that all the questions are asked within the allocated time period. The book talks about probing, and that's something that's an art form that a focus group moderator uses. What do you mean by that? Okay, you've told me that taking care of your skin is important because you want to look good. I want to hear more about that. What does looking good mean to you? How do you feel when you're looking good? How do you feel about a brand that makes you look good? So it's going deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's what makes qualitative research, good qualitative research, is you're going deeper and deeper and really getting a chance to understand how people really feel. Now, I'm not going to go into this in too much depth, but there are a lot of techniques. There's a lot of books written about focus group techniques. I'm going to talk about a few of them today. The book mentions them. One of them is personification. And it comes from psychology, and it's based on the principle that some things we don't think Rorschach tests, those ink blots. The idea is sometimes we don't always articulate how we really feel, or more importantly, we don't even understand ourselves how we really feel about something. So we can attribute those thoughts to others, or we can use exercises called personification. Here's an example. Let's say I am L'Oreal, and I might say to you, if L'Oreal were a person, a celebrity that we all know, who might L'Oreal be? Well, I think L'Oreal would be Barack Obama or Michelle Obama, let's say. Well, why? Tell me why. What do you think of when you think of Michelle Obama? It helps people to articulate certain things. We sometimes do a photo shoot for getting at branding issues. We'll put a whole bunch of images cut out from magazines, different pictures of people and things, and spread them over a table and say, okay, we're talking about, let's use another example. Let's talk about Honda. We're talking about Honda. I'd like you to walk through, look at these pictures, and pick the picture that for you best describes how you feel about the Honda brand. Okay, great. Now, same thing, but for Toyota. And, you're going to get these abstract pictures. You might have, somebody dancing. You might have a picture of a lighthouse. I don't know. But the important thing is, why did you select this picture? Well, I think of Honda as being, let's say they picked a dancer. I think of Honda, driving a Honda is a way for me to express myself. A dancer expresses herself. So there are different techniques for getting below the surface. Sometimes you might ask them to divide into groups, and they talk about having them work out a process. You've got these people for 2 hours, and you can really pick their brains. You might say, okay, let's talk now about an auto dealership. I'd like you to divide into groups and to come up with the 3 things that are important to you guys as a small group of 3 when going to an auto dealership. What are the 3 qualities that are most important? And again, so you give them a couple minutes, they work on it independently, and then you have them talk before the group, and ultimately you're going to get a much deeper understanding about how they feel about cars, and how they feel about dealerships, how they feel about your brand. And you're getting so much deeper than you would if you had a survey that said, on a scale of 1 to 7, how would you rate Honda on the following attributes? So that's where you're going with qualitative research. And the techniques, so many of them are ways to get people to open up and to say things that they may not normally think about. There's another exercise, I like to call it a card sort. Let's say I want to understand, let's say I'm doing a fast food experiment, a fast food study, and I've got all these brands of fast food or quick service restaurants, as they're called these days. I've got McDonald's, I've got Burger King, I've got Kentucky Fried Chicken, maybe I've got some other types like Denny's and Bob's Big Boy, and maybe I've got some more upscale restaurants like Red Lobster, casual dining restaurants, and Chili's and things like that. And I'm going to say, okay, I'd like you to work as a group and put these into piles for me. I'm not going to tell you what the categories are, but I want you to put them into piles. If McDonald's is like Burger King, put that in the same pile. And if McDonald's is nothing like Red Lobster, then it should go in a different pile. And then ultimately, I get to understand qualitatively how they feel about the landscape of different fast food restaurants. So these are all different exercises that you can employ when you're doing focus groups. Okay, and then ultimately you want to write a report, or if you're the client, you want to commission a report. Oftentimes, what I like to do is I like to do what's called a top line. You know, maybe a day or two after the groups, I'm just going to write some initial thoughts without going into the notes and things like that. And then I do a final report, which may have video clips, which are great for, you know, having the client, or having you, if you're the client, see real people and hear them talking in their own words. Final reports often include what we call verbatims, actual quotes of word for word what people said in the focus groups. It's great for making their words come to life. But the real point that I want to get across in talking about a final report is a good qualitative market research report is not just parroting back what was heard. It provides an analysis. And the worst market reports you know, are going to wind up in somebody's shelf. What I like to do as a market researcher, if I'm writing a qualitative report, is to state something that's not obvious, to find the hidden gems in what we heard that may not be that obvious. But that comes with experience. But as you're looking at potentially market research providers, you know, you want to find people that have that knack for making the clients come to life. Okay? And, you know, from there, once you've come up with a qualitative understanding, maybe then from there you want to do a quantitative study and measure. Okay, we heard this theme about, in my hotel, we heard this theme about people feeling that the housekeeping is really, really important because there's nothing worse than going back to a hotel room that's not clean. So, and I really understood that this is a real soft spot, and people, you know, people associated with, I don't know what. But now I want to measure, and I want to see how many people feel that my hotel is clean and neat and things like that. Maybe I'll talk to 500 people after that, and I'll know, and then I'll see quantitatively, these are my real issues. But I'll have the benefit of understanding why cleanliness or whatever is so important to my guests. Usually, a best practice is to do your qualitative before your quantitative, because you can find out how people feel and design your quantitative questions based on those insights. But it's not always the case. Sometimes you might do your qualitative after your quantitative, because you've got all the insights and everybody's talking about cleanliness. I don't know what they mean, so I'm gonna probe more deeply into that. Okay. So next week we're going to talk about IDI, or in-depth interviews, or one-on-one interviews, which is a great way to go even deeper, because you're not talking to 8 people. You lose out on that rich discussion, but you're able to get very personal. And I'm going to talk about ethnographies, which oftentimes is a one-on-one interview, but it could be in somebody's house, or you might take them on a shopping trip, or, man, we've taken people to bars and drink with them, and you know, you get to observe them in their natural environment. It comes from anthropology. So that's all I've got to say about focus groups for this week. Please don't stress these projects. Enjoy this class. I think market research is really fun, and I hope it will be for you too. So any questions, send me an email. Have a great week.